Thanks for joining us for part 2. Here's the cam timing tool set we got on eBay from cnautomotivetools for setting up the cam timing. This is the map sensor adapter to operate the boost gauge and the boost control valve from boostvalve.com, allowing us to regulate the boost pressure. You saw our ARP head studs that we added. Here I'm lubricating the rod end with a little bit of engine pre-assembly lube and the wrist pin and also the piston. You want to make sure you pre-lube everything. It's also important to keep everything lint-free. You can see I'm working on a lint-free material. I'm trying to stay super clean. Now we're going to put in the snap rings to hold the wrist pin in place. Once you get through the first couple, the last two go pretty easy. It was a learning process for getting those in there right. I'm installing the rings onto the pistons and numbering the pistons. I had previously checked the end gap in each cylinder bore and marked each box of rings for what cylinder bore they went into. I honed the cylinders very lightly, and I cleaned the head mating surfaces. Make sure that you adjust the ring end gap in each cylinder bore for each ring. This is super important. After I finished cleaning everything, I sprayed WD-40, or you could use oil down into the cylinder walls just to keep everything lubricated. Now I'm getting ready to install the pistons with a ring compressor. You don't need to over-tighten rings onto the pistons. You want to make sure that they're sitting in their ring grooves as well. You don't want to damage the rings before they even get into the engine. Here I'm putting a little assembly lube on the rod bearings. I was told once never to even touch a rod bearing with your fingers. Now you need to set the pistons to the 90-degree mark and install the special tool to keep the engine in the right place. You can see me torquing the rod bolts, first to 5 Newton meters, then 15, and then it's an additional degrees. And this is where I'm using the degree wheel to finish the tightening sequence. Now I'm installing the ARP head studs. These are installed hand tight. The great thing about the head studs is you don't have to worry about pulling the threads out of the block, which is an issue with these engines. Trying to be super clean with everything, making sure there's no lint or anything on the head. I want that mating surface to be perfect for installation. With the ARP head studs, the head installation is amazing. It slips right on. Now it's time to torque the studs. So each stud gets a washer and a nut, and they're all 12-point nuts. Now this followed the ARP guideline for torquing. You You do 2 rounds of a specific torque and then next round of a degrees. Now we're installing the new downpipe. We didn't take the time to show all the other installation. It was just a step-by-step thing. You work with each sub-unit and get everything installed correctly. Take your time, try to keep clean. Now we're putting back in the headlights. I just took out the headlights and that upper stamped steel bar across the front. I did not put it into radiator service mode. Here I'm installing the Harbor Freight purchased boost gauge, which was a great addition for tuning. Topping off the fluids, it's very important to get all the air out of the cooling system. And sometimes it can be difficult on different models. Here you can see little air pockets bubbling up. We had to use a jump box to get it started. The battery had died from the opening and shut the door and leaving the dome lights on. You shouldn't have to do that normally. So now I'm just watching it warm up, and I'm watching the dual trim just to make sure that the oxygen sector is going rich and lean and everything is just running like a clock. There I'm just squeezing the heater hoses to help circulate. Also trying to feel if the hoses are getting hot to make sure that there's hot water in them. Life is 10% what happens to us and 90% how we respond to it. I hope Keisha likes her beepy new car.